What's up, guys? It's KW Stout with HealthMindPower.com. This is day one, video one of the 30 videos in 30 days challenge. And this first video is actually going to be something that I know a lot of people are very interested in, which is creating your own workout program. So if you followed someone else's program for a while or followed a lot of the common ones like 5x5 or Windler 531 or any of those, after a while you know it does get old, and you want to start doing your own thing, and you want to start personalizing it for what's going on in your life, your schedule, your goals, your injuries, that kind of stuff. So I'm just going to walk you through a 5-step process to create your own program. It's real simple. So the first thing you want to consider is how many days per week you're going to train. And before you make your program, you should be realistic with how many days you're actually going to commit. So it's easy to get excited and tell yourself, oh, I'm going to go 5, 6 days a week. But if you end up skipping several days every other week or every week, there's just no point. So if you can only make it 3 days per week, then program your training for 3 days per week. So I recommend at least a minimum of 3 days per week, but more closer to 4 to 6 days. I typically train 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. Right now I'm doing 6 days, Monday through Saturday. A lot of times I do 4 days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday off, and then Thursday and Friday. So just pick with whatever works for your schedule. Then the next thing you want to consider is, and by the way, I have an article here that's going to go along with this video, so don't worry about if you can't keep track or if you forget something. I have an article that's going to have all this stuff written out. All you got to do is just click the link in the description. So the next thing is you pick your training goal. So, and a little caveat here is don't pick fat loss as your training goal, because dieting is going to make you lose fat, not training. You can do any type of training and lose fat. So the training goal is typically to either get stronger, build bigger muscles, which would be hypertrophy style training, or you're training to boost athletic performance. So once you need to come up with your goal first before you try to come up with your training split, because that's going to dictate the type of exercises you do and the sets and reps and all that. Then the next thing is you want to pick your training split. So that would be basically what body parts or what movements you do on what day. The training split you're probably familiar with the most is called the bro split, or I don't know, there's other names, but that's basically where you have a dedicated chest day, a dedicated arms day, and so on and so forth. Personally, I'm not a big fan of the bro split. It's just honestly not that effective. It's one of those things where it's really fun to train that way. It got very popular from the bodybuilding magazines in the 90s. It's very fun to just go in and completely tear down one muscle group and get an insane pump. But in terms of actually getting stronger and building more muscle, it's really not that effective, especially for natural athletes. So, in fact, I've never met someone in amazing shape who actually trains that way in real life. Now, I know there are some, but just my take on that. Another type of split would be the full body split. So that would be 5x5, and a lot of other programs use full body splits. This is definitely the best way to train if you're a beginner. A lot of people believe this is the best way to train forever. I think it's a great way to train, but I personally like a lot more volume. I like to be in the gym more than just 3 days a week, so it's really not practical if you want to train that way, just because it's just going to be too much. So another split you can do is an upper lower split. That's where you train all upper body one day and all lower body another day. That's actually my personal favorite. It's probably the most versatile, meaning you can use upper lower for strength or hypertrophy or athletic performance or really anything. So then the final most common one would be the push pull split or push pull legs. Push pull is where you do full body pressing one day, so squats and bench press and everything else. It's a pressing movement. And then full body pulling the next day, the next training day that is, which would be things like deadlift, rows, pull-ups, curls, all that kind of stuff. So, and that's also it's a great way of training. It's not my favorite, but I like upper lower best, but it's really up to you. Whatever you like and you will stick with is what's best for you. Then push pull legs is where you have it's kind of the same concept, except you're doing upper body pushing one day, upper body pulling the next day, and then just all legs on their own dedicated day. So, you can basically pick whichever style works best. If you're going to be training less days in the week, so say you can only train 3 days per week, then I would recommend using either a full body split or push pull split and alternating. If you're going to be able to do 4, 5, 6 days per week, I recommend upper lower split, but you can go with whatever you like I said. And then, okay, so the next thing you're going to do is, once you've decided how many days you're going to be training, why you're training, and your training split, now you've got to actually design the workout. You've got to actually pick the exercises. So the way a good workout should be you start with a big heavy compound movements like squat, deadlift, bench press, bent over row, overhead press, and you want to do those first because those are going to require the most energy, and you're also going to get the most from those in terms of strength and muscle gain. So you want to do those first whenever you're strongest, you have the most energy, and you also just want to dedicate the most attention to those lifts. Everything else you do is pretty much going to complement what you do with those lifts. Some examples of accessory movements would be stiff leg deadlifts, dumbbell press, lunges, things like that. Things that you still would like to use multiple body groups if you can, multiple muscle groups if you can. But whereas the next thing you're going to get to towards the end of your workout is going to be an isolation movement or several isolation movements, and those are things that isolate one muscle group. So that would be like a bicep curl, calf press, those sort of things. So the way you go from your workout is you're starting with the big heavy compound movements that work as many muscle groups as possible. You get to your accessory movements, which are really designed to boost your strength and performance in those big accessory movements, but also kind of help you target some muscle groups. Like, for example, an accessory movement for bench press could be incline dumbbell press, just to bring up your upper chest. And then there's isolation movements, which would be an isolation chest movement would be a cable fly. Now that's probably not really going to help your bench, but it is going to help your chest grow. So that's why it's fun to train. So, okay, and once you've got all of your exercises listed, and by the way, I typically do about 6 to 8 exercises per workout. So it just varies, sometimes more, sometimes less. It depends on the total volume, which is the final thing you want to set for your workout. You want to decide how many sets you're going to do, how many reps, and what your rest time is going to be. So for the big compound movements, I recommend about 3 to 5 sets of 3 to 6 reps with 1 to 2 minutes of rest. You want to keep the reps lower so that way you're really focusing on your strength for these movements, and you want to rest a little bit longer because on these lifts it's all about being strong and actually executing the lift successfully. Whereas when you move on to your isolation movements, you want to do higher reps and rest less. So then for your accessory movements, I recommend 3 to 4 sets of 8 to 12 reps, and I typically like to rest about 45 seconds to a minute and a half. So a little bit less rest time, keep your heart rate up a little bit more, and get more blood flow to the muscle because you're doing a little bit higher reps. And then for the isolation movements, I typically do 3 to 4 sets for each exercise of 12 to 20 reps, and I only rest for 15 to 45 seconds for those. So for those, I'm really trying to just finish off the workout with a good pump and keep my heart rate going throughout the rest of the workout. And that's pretty much it as far as creating your own basic training program. Now, if you want someone to create something very specific for you and your goals, your schedule, your injuries, all of that, your fitness level, then it's really best to hire a coach. Especially if you're a beginner. If you're a beginner, I recommend not doing this, and as much as you're tempted to want to create your own program, because it is very rewarding to create your own program and get results from a program that you designed, That's why I love doing it. That's why I love doing it for other people. But if you are a beginner or an early intermediate, I recommend not doing this because, to be quite honest, you're not going to design a program that's probably as effective for you as some of the tried and true programs out there. So if that's you, if you're a beginner or maybe somewhere between beginner to intermediate, then go down to the description section below and check out my free guide called Zero to Fit that has the best tried and true time tested programs for beginners and intermediates. That if you do those programs, you will get from where you're at to more of an intermediate to advanced stage in the quickest time possible. So that's all for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it informative. Like I said, go check out Zero to Fit in the description section below. And please like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you tomorrow.